What's up all you pals and gals? Welcome to my channel. I'm the 4D Owl and today I'm going to show you guys how to draw the human figure using cubes and rectangles and a little bit of perspective. And this is really for anyone that's having trouble imagining a cube or a figure in their head, three-dimensional shapes basically. Or even if you do have the holy grail of an actual physical object and you still can't quite get it right, don't chop your hand off yet. You're kind of going to need it for this video. So I'm just going to start off for you guys. Now, what I like to do is put an imaginary point of perspective. So imagine if you had a horizon line and then you had your point of perspective, right? So what I would do is just forget about the whole line and just have that point of perspective right there at the top, right here, right there. And now what you want to do is just figure out which corner of her face or which edge of her face feels like it's coming closest to you, or whichever feels more comfortable for you. And right now I would say that's this right here. That's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling like that's the corner to start at. So based on this point of perspective, I could just come down right here and draw that there. Now that's the side of her face that we're starting at. And then all you have to do is connect these points to each other, right? This is one point perspective. Connect your points to each other. And then honestly, always go back to your reference. Look at it. Now that we have the top and bottom lines, now you just want to connect depending on how wide you want the side of her head. I'd say I'd go maybe here. And now you have this side of her face already done. Boom. And then you can either go for the horizontal, which would be right here, right? Put that right there, and then do the bottom one. And again, constantly look at your reference. Maybe the angle's a little odd, and don't be afraid to change the angle a little bit if it's like not working for you, because a lot of art can be about improvising. So, you know, improvise a little bit. If the angle's not quite right, don't bother trying to force it. And now once you connect this other vertical line or diagonal, which would be the other side of her face, right there, right? Now you've got her front and the side of her head. And now all you want to do is drop another parallel line. Forgot to bring that up. All lines must remain parallel, or try to keep them as parallel as possible so that your shape doesn't come out too disfigured. And now you've got her head. Easy and done, right? And let me know if any of this is confusing down in the comment section below. I haven't done any videos on perspective. If you guys want me to, just let me know. And then also something I like to do is I like to mark the lines on the face. So I would say this is the center of her face going vertically, and then this is the center of her face going horizontally. Now you can curve your lines to match it a little better, match the figure a little better. So maybe she's like this, right? I'm just gonna draw her head one more time. She's like this. And you see how I'm curving these lines to match where her face is actually facing, or the direction of her face. And then I would curve the line to make it seem like, yeah, this, you can say, yeah, this face is looking down. This face is definitely looking down, or whatever. There you go, instead of just doing pretty straightforward lines. I think using straight, exact lines does help give you a clear, decisive answer to which side you're looking at and which direction it's pointing. But curves just keep you nice and fluid. Alright, next, for her body, right? I want to say we can see this face, the front obviously, and then the side, which would be her ribs are. So let's say her neck is facing that way, and then got this right here. Now this is just the longest line of action, I guess you could call it, where her body's really flowing to. And I would say I'd put a horizon, or I'd put an imaginary point of perspective right here, and then I would draw this bad boy. I'd draw the top of her shoulders, right? Get her top of her shoulders down. Once you do that, you can connect these points. So now you know where her shoulders are. And you can make these as wide. The reason why I like this so much is because you can make it ridiculous. You can make it like out here. Nobody's got shoulders that wide, but you know, you can just keep dropping diagonal lines to decide how wide you want her shoulders, from front of her shoulders to the back. And then, now this is where curving lines can really come in handy, because right here, you could make it straight like this, right? But that feels too rigid for the pose that she's going for. That feels just a little too rigid for me. So this is a point where I would say, all right, I'll put a little curve in here. Give this a little curving motion, right? Give this a little curving motion. And just like parallel lines, these curves would follow each other, making the same curves on the opposite side. So if this curve is going this way, then the curve on the other side should also bend that way. And if the top is folding like this, then your bottom should be folding down as well, right? It's something you'll pick up eventually, but I'm trying to give it to you guys right now. And then you would just bring back this line to the bottom of her torso, and then drop your horizontal, curve it if you like. You can do it straight, it doesn't matter. And then there you go. Shoulders are a little thick, maybe I'll drop it there. But once you get that, now you've got the top of her shoulders, which is what we can see. You can see the side of her ribs, and you can see the front face. Now, again, I like to drop this line right here to let me know where her body's facing, or the motion of her body. Drop this one right here, right? And then for her hips, let's see, what are her hips doing? I feel like her hips are really straight on, like there's no specific angle to her lips. I mean to her hips. And then this is what I'm thinking of. If you guys are looking at my reference, you can see me drawing on there. This is kind of what I'm thinking right here for her hips. It's pretty straight on, so I could have made it flat, but if you can find an angle in your drawings, then try, because the more you focus on being able to enhance your ability to see angles and see in 3 dimensions, then the easier this is going to get for you. But if you're only going to draw what you see, which is basically this for her hips, then you're not going to really improve. You got to think that there's some flesh, there's some meat in there, you know what I'm saying? So yeah. And then for her hips, I would put maybe a slight angle. I'd put this point of perspective right here, maybe. Yeah, I'll put it there. That's a good spot. And then I'd say I'd start with the horizontal. Start with the horizontal line. And then really you can align this to the rest of her body, so this can just align with that, and so on and so forth. It all helps you in the end, honestly. And then when you come to this face, I made this mistake a lot, is on this face, right? This one right here. I would tend to drag it all the way out to this edge instead of this one, which would end up having this. I'll show you guys real quick. So I would, hold on. So I would basically bring this horizontal line all the way out here. And I don't know how I made this mistake. Like, come on. Like, look at that. Come on, imagine trying to do that. Let me just erase this real quick. Like, what is that? Whose hips are that wide? Nobody's. All right. So let's erase that. There we go. All right. Just remember, when you're thinking in 3D, all the lines have to kind of align, you know? So once this line right here faces this line right here, as you see, I'm darkening it, then that's when you can throw in your lines that go back to your point of perspective, this guy right here. And then you can drop your vertical, as close to this one right here. Aligning, remember, alignment matters. Wheel alignment, back alignment, alignment, right? And now you've got her hips. Now you may be thinking, man, her hips look a little big. Well, that's because hips really are that big. Honestly, they're quite large. You got to remember your hips do come out to the width of your shoulders. So, and you do have a butt, so that can add to the thickness. And then I feel like when people look at the hips, they only think of from the top of the hips, right? Let's say this is the top of the hips to the just where your crotch is. You got to remember when you draw it, with the hip, it kind of looks like this. It's kind of like a heart, right? Hips is kind of like a heart. But people forget that at the bottom, there's this extra heart. It's like an upside down heart that comes in that makes this right here. So it actually comes over the rectangle you would have set already. And I mean, it's not something you really need to worry about when you're drawing, because you don't actually see that in the person's body, because it's tucked away and hidden inside of all that flesh and meat and whatever. But just a reminder, look up your skeletons, practice that. Knowing the bone structure will help your figures and gestures more. Same with muscles. But anyways, let's continue this. Right? Drop this right here. Yeah, I want to say her hips are facing a slight angle to the left, and then maybe a little bit down, just a nick, just a tip of the iceberg. You know, yeah, that's it. And there you go. And you can bring this back to make a full cube or full three-dimensional shape. I like to, just because it helps me. If it doesn't help you, don't bother. But yeah, and that's how you would draw that, right? So now you've got the human figure, you've got all of its faces, you've got its main gesture of where each face or each body part is actually going. And once you do that, all you have to do is kind of repeat this process using more references and more actual objects if you can. If you've got an AC or a car seat laying around, or a tire, or even apples, fruits, you can break those down into squares easily. Like if you look at an apple, something like this. Don't mock my apples. This is kind of just right? That's like an apple. Or a three-dimensional apple would probably be more like this, and you've got it coming around. Right? You can turn this into a square if you slice your edges correctly. Right? Slice your edges. Keep your lines parallel, and now you've got a cube out of this. All you have to do is know which sides to slice off. It's just cutting curves until you get a square. Alright, so next would probably be the limbs, and limbs generally don't get drawn in cubes or cylinders. You can, for practice, to get clear, decisive sides, and let's just do that right now. Let me just erase some of this for you guys. It's getting a little cluttery in here. Crank that bad boy up to 30 or 27. All right, so let's erase some of this. And now I'm just going to use the reference and draw over it, just so you guys get a much better understanding, since I've already done this nice little beauty record. much it. Let's just turn down the... Alright. And this is what you would get. That's a shape you would get out of drawing your entire body using cubes and rectangles. So I hope you guys liked the video. You guys can comment, subscribe, and you guys just have a nice day. Practice stuff. Practice this technique a lot. You know, use it whenever you can, whenever you're using references, or even if you're just trying to draw things out of your head. And I'll see you guys in the next one.